Adulting, as you've just seen, can be really hard. It can be complex. It requires a balance of being responsible, but also still retaining that having fun. And this morning, family therapist and social worker Talia Ressel, who recently relocated to the UK, connects with us to give some tips on how parents can support their child's transition into adulthood. Talia, Tay, so good to see your face again. Welcome back to the show. I told you we'd be Zooming soon enough. First of all, I've got to ask, how are you? How's the big relocation, the move been?
It's been good. It's been good. Thanks, Graham. I mean, it was really fun for us. We won the football yesterday. I have to call it football now, not soccer.
You're gonna have to adopt that culture. I've also, with one half of my family being from the UK, I've had to do the same. So now, I'm gonna get into our subject matter this morning because it terrifies me. I have these moments when I look at my boy especially, he's only 4 now, and I see his life path, his trajectory mapped out before us, and I see him as a young teen, I see him as an older teen, then transitioning into adulthood, and it is such a big step. Why is this such a stressful and challenging time for everyone?
Yeah, well, I think, Graham, you know, you're straddling both worlds. You're 1 foot in late childhood, 1 foot in adulthood, and it's scary. Anytime we make a change, it's a big life transition, it is scary. It's the uncertainty, it's the unknown. And I think now, even more so for young adults, we know how uncertain the world is. So with COVID, it's added a whole nother level of anxiety of leaving home. How am I going to manage? What does it mean? And I mean, for a lot of young adults these days, they've actually gone out the home, gone through that, then had to go back to the home, then back and forth. And it can be a very, very scary time.
So what are the core anxieties? You did touch on a few just now, but and I suppose leaving home is a big part of that. It's a beautiful process, and it can be so exciting, but it also comes with, you know, never mind having to feed yourself, but there are several anxieties that are attached to it. What are the core anxieties that you've come across in your practice?
So some of the main ones is literally the basic survival skills. Am I going to survive? Like you said, eating, caring for myself, that sort of skill, but also around financial pressure. How am I going to manage this? What do I need to do? Security concerns in the sense that they're now independent. And actually, one of the biggest things that I'm finding is, even though the young adults wanting it, the freedom, that also brings some anxiety, because you can go to the other extreme. You can now have too much freedom, and the anxiety that comes of not knowing, not having an external force that says no or that's enough, that can bring a lot of anxiety too.
So that being said, then, how do our young adults emerging into the brave, big world out there manage these concerns, these fears and anxieties?
So I think it's important that they talk about it. And I think for parents as well, you start preparing them. I mean, it doesn't happen the day that they leave. This is meant to be, parenting is a gradual process where we want our children to become self-sufficient and self-reliant. So actually, you're preparing for this process your whole life, with getting little bits more of independence and freedom and more responsibility. So I encourage young people, we talk a lot about the anxieties, reach out to your other friends, they're going through similar issues. Break things down into small steps, do it one at a time, and go for it gradually.
And don't party too hard. Party, because you're young, but don't party too hard. Now, we're going to get more amazing parenting advice on adulting when we return in just a moment. Talia, please stick around. So good to see your face again. You guys stick around at home. Some gems coming. We are talking about how young people can transition into adulthood without the anxiety. It's my feel-good breakfast show. Welcome back. We continue to chat now to the parents and the young'uns who are transitioning into adulthood. Earlier in the show, we began this conversation around the anxieties that come with that transitioning from a child into a young adult. And we're continuing that conversation now with family therapist and social worker Talia Ressel, who is on Zoom all the way in the UK. So good to still be able to connect with you, because you have a way of just making me feel calm about these things as a parent, as a very immature parent. But I'm going to talk about the role of the parent now. When a young adult is managing their anxieties, and maybe they're not quite getting it right, or you as the parent have become the sounding board, you know what's going wrong, how involved do you need to be? Is it a kind of sink or swim thing? Do you have to let them kind of make their own mistakes, or should you kind of still weigh in? Where does that line begin and end?
Well, I think it starts with first acknowledging the parent that you're going through your own stuff too. Mm-hmm. You know, the empty nest feeling, there's going to be a bit of loss, sadness. I mean, there may be some excitement too. It's a new chapter in your life, and maybe some relief. But whatever it is, you're going through your own process. So first, acknowledge that. Secondly, I would say for parents, don't jump in straight away. It's normal, it's appropriate that your child's going to struggle a little bit to find their feet. You can be there to listen to them. You can support them emotionally. If they want your involvement, ask them first. First, let's see what they can manage. And then you say, would you like me just to listen, or do you want some help? And I think it needs to be appropriate help. Don't go in and rescue them. This is the time when they're supposed to be developing their skills, and it's going to be a bit bumpy and messy. So they're going to mess up, but you as a parent have to keep navigating. How much do I jump in? How much is too much? How much is about my need, that I want them back home, or I want to still feel useful?
What about financial independence within that? Because that's almost a conversation within the conversation.
Yes.
And very often those red flags or the please help me will come in the form of, I've run out of cash, I need money to buy 2-minute noodles, or whatever the case. How do you suggest both parent and young adult child approach the money conversation once you leave home?
I think very openly, regularly assessing it. To be reasonable and realistic about what the parent can or can't afford, what the expectations are of the child, their responsibility to try earn some money. Obviously, you don't want their basic needs to not be met. So I think it has to be a constant negotiation. The understanding is that some children may try, I mean, nobody wants to have to work if they don't have to a lot of the time. So I think you've got to balance that process with the child. You don't want them starving, but at the same time, they have to learn money is a finite source, and we have to budget, because budgeting is a skill.
Yeah, maybe it's, once they've achieved a level of financial independence, then it's about moving out, not the other way around. To wrap this up, some final tips to help ease the anxiety for families that are navigating this transition. And I'm going to say, especially for those young adults that are making this leap, what advice do you have for them?
I want them to know that it is totally normal and appropriate to be a bit anxious, to have fears around moving. Any transition, any change, of course, is going to unsettle you, because you haven't done it before. So it's okay. It's if it doesn't settle down as you get used to it, that then we say, okay, let's get you some support. But in the beginning, of course, it feels scary. So reach out to friends, reach out to other people going through this. If you're studying, get involved in your college or your courses with the extracurricular stuff. Make those contacts. The busier and more active you keep yourself, the quicker you will integrate into your new life. And I think that finally for kids to, well, they're not kids, young adults, to understand that it will pass. This is a moment, this is an experience, and it will pass.
Completely. Trust me, my boy is going to be my kid until he's 55. I really love the fact that it is about giving them some room, but the parents still can be involved. Remember, you are a family unit and you look after each other. But man, taking care of yourself is where it all begins. As a young person, take those moments to really look after yourself and enjoy, revel in the fact that you have that independence and can do what you want to do. But financial independence does play a massive part in that. So let's continue that conversation.